feeling confident in what you have to say online. Do you have any tips, I guess, to get there, which I think
you just start, bro, because I thought the same thing. Like if I could go back with just kind of what I'm doing now or no, like it would have been like completely different.
Hi, welcome to another episode of the Producer Royalty Podcast. This is the best page to learn about the business side of being a producer. So if you want to learn more about the business side, I would definitely recommend pressing subscribe. We're really trying to spread a lot of this information that's often gatekept in this industry. So for this one, we're here today with Lifestyle Did It. He's been going crazy on YouTube the last couple of years, one of the top content creators in the producer community. He's at 153,000 subscribers, and I'm blessed to be with you here today. One of the earliest supporters of Producer Royalty as well, too.
Yeah, bro. Day one.
How you feeling today?
I'm good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's great to be with you today. So yeah, you had a really like super fast growth when you first started. Like what you went from 0 subscribers to how many within a year?
It was actually pretty slow in the beginning. I don't know, because I've been doing YouTube for like 6 years, maybe almost 7 years, something like that. I think it was like 2017 or 2018, something along those lines. But I had originally started the tutorials and I was at like 100 subscribers maybe, because I was posting beats before that. And then when I got into tutorials, I'd have to look the year up. I know the age I was, so I'm trying to do the math in my head quick. But I want to say it was like 2017 or the end of 2016 was like my first tutorial. The growth in the first year, I want to say after a year, maybe I was at 1,000 or a couple thousand, but I don't think it was anything like that crazy. The biggest year of growth when it was going like up, I remember there was like hundreds to like 1,000 subs in one day, which was insane. I haven't had that happen in years. Was like 2019. I was working, I was a janitor and I was working my job and I was posting mixing videos, and I really started like jumping into my knowledge as far as mixing and engineering. And I hadn't tapped into that realm like fully yet, like really diving into like, you know, the real nerdy stuff about it. When I started doing that, those videos, I remember I'd go to work and the video would be at like the normal amount, couple hundred views or something. And then like that night I would check it and it would be like 1,000. Then an hour later, like 2,000, 3,000. And I was at work like, I'm about to quit, bro. Like, and that year is when it just went like super crazy. Even looking at my analytics, that's just such a big like jump. But that first year, I want to say it was pretty slow, steady growth, because I was like just getting into tutorials.
Okay, yeah, I think you must have archived like the first couple videos that or a bunch of videos that you dropped, though.
View wise, they gain traction over time.
Oh yeah. Okay.
So the channel, I think maybe I only took down like one video because I believe it was something to do with like uploading to BeatStars, and obviously BeatStars is different than it was from like 6-7 years ago. So I had to make like an updated version of it. But that video, like you couldn't follow along with it anymore because the platform is just completely different. So, and it was still ranked on like the tutorials of how to upload to BeatStars. So I had to take it down because it was just like a pointless video. So then I remade an updated version of that one. But what's cool is that actual first video of the BeatStars thing led me to relationships with them over at BeatStars. And there was a time frame in like 2018, 2019 where I was actually doing tutorials for BeatStars platform of how to upload beats and how to build a pro page off those first tutorials that I had did, which I just randomly did because I didn't see any tutorials for how to upload a beat to BeatStars. So there's some cool like stories in that too that we could touch on.
Yeah, so yeah, there's so much I want to touch on, bro. But I guess like during that time where you started to see like real serious growth, like what do you could attribute that sporadic growth to at that time? Like what were you doing differently, do you feel like? Were you getting more into the technical side than other creators maybe?
Yeah, so when I started, there was a good amount. Like, bro, I've been doing this for a pretty long time, like tutorials. Like, honestly, if I'm trying to remember, like I said, it's definitely like 6-7 years for sure on YouTube of doing tutorials. There was a lot of stuff that I was covering. Sometimes I couldn't find on YouTube myself. So I would be like really in forums trying to figure out how to do certain stuff, or trying to watch like people going live, or like certain types of, I don't know, the content game was so different. Like everything about producing at that time was a little bit different than it is now. It wasn't so specific. Like you couldn't hop on YouTube and type in like how to make this type of specific beat. Like you're really trying to like tap into like those Lex Luger videos, Metro's videos, but it was all just like hookup videos where you're trying to see like what's on the screen and like looking. And I remember being in forums like trying to find what presets are used and whatnot, because this is back like 2016 maybe. So on the channel when I had started these tutorials, I was really trying to cover anything maybe that I couldn't find. Any comment that I would get after a tutorial that someone's like, can you cover this? Like, I can't find it. I literally would do every single one of those. I would see the comment and I'd be like, yep, I'm covering that. I don't even care if it's just one person that needs it. I was just trying to grow the channel and really bring as much value as possible to the audience that I was building. And it was only like maybe a few comments, but I was really tapped in. Like to this day, I still reply to every single comment. I've done that for almost 7-8 years, like every comment on every video, every question. So I think really just doing that, trying to cover a lot of topics that I couldn't find myself, or that maybe producers would drop in the comments asking if I could cover, just started to snowball slowly over the years. And then, as I mentioned, that time frame in 2019 when I was really going into like the mixing of beats and engineering side and really getting into like the technical stuff, that when those started to catch, it just started to kind of snowball more. But YouTube is like, right now I'm on like an ascend again, but there's times when it's down. So that's what I've seen over like the 7-8 years. Like it just depends. You always got to pivot, because YouTube can definitely go like this when you're on the platform. So there's times when you're looking at it like, oh, this is the end, like I'm about to fizzle out, you know, like
yeah.
But then you keep going, you pivot, you do some new content, you spice it up, and then you're on the highest part of the mountain, and 6-7 months ago you weren't. So it's just a journey that you got to see through.
Mm-hmm. And is there any lanes that you feel like, because I'll definitely co-sign what you're saying about like, just I came into this community just knowing that I'm not on the creative side at all, and I just noticed that there weren't a lot of business conversations being had. I wrote my master's thesis related to like producers not collecting their payments, and I scoured the internet. I couldn't find anybody but DJ Payne 1 and Lamont Graves, and sometimes Mike Tramp be like talking about this stuff. So I was like, fuck, like I'm just gonna, you know, build a platform that addresses that, and it's growing very quickly, I would say. So I'll say that there's a lot of there's other things in this community that still are kind of untapped. Have you noticed like anything in particular that you think that could be leaned into more, or that's worked well for you within the last like couple years?
Theory, I've noticed music theory. I'll talk a little bit on like the producer side, and I definitely want to kind of talk about, you know, what you just brought up for yourself, what you're doing, because I think that's definitely something that I'm seeing outside of, you know, what I do day to day. For the last like 2 years, I really dove into music theory, because I've made beats forever. I always played the keyboard, but I knew a small amount of theory. I just felt like there was a lot of things that I had an idea of what it meant, but I couldn't understand it, or I didn't know why I was going to this chord after that chord, or what an inversion was, and voicings on chords. And I'm doing things that a lot of us producers do like without thinking about it. I was like, I want to understand this more. So I'm always trying to learn so that I could teach more. So I really dove into theory, and I was like, I'm just going to go on YouTube and type in anything. So I really love R&B. I make a lot of R&B, and definitely anyone that makes R&B or jazz or whatever, like you got to know theory to like kind of tap in and understand it. So I just would throw myself into a lot of theory videos that made no sense to me at the time, and then just see what happens. If I see like something that I kind of understand, I write a note like, okay, that's what that means. And then slowly after, it didn't matter what theory video I'm just trying to consume, and just plug dots into what I kind of know, what I think I know. And you start connecting things, and you're like, oh, like that's finally like the aha moment. And that keeps happening and happening and happening. When I do things like that and I can plug in and learn, once I like learn and I have concepts understood, there's more things that I could teach, and I can better my tutorials and kind of upgrade the channel, is what I think of it as, right? Like I'm unlocking achievement now. Let me go back to the business, to the channel, to everyone that watches the videos, and share some new knowledge. So by doing that in these last videos, they've been going crazy, bro. Because I've always explained what I'm doing with chord progressions and stuff, but now I'm like really tapping into the theory behind it and trying to make it fun and super easy to understand and apply that to the videos. It's just literally like these videos have just been going crazy in the last month or two. So that's one that comes to mind for sure, is like explaining like theory behind it. Like if you know music theory, if you can explain it in a fun way, like producers will love that, bro, because like they can like understand a little bit more, because theory could be really hard and boring if it's explained in like a boring way.
Hey, what's good, guys? Just wanted to quickly put you on to this new app that just launched that's called Bands. This is one of the most innovative, impactful, disruptive, and empowering apps to come out for producers potentially ever, but definitely in a very long time. Bands is a royalty tracking platform that tracks your royalty growth and financials in real time for both your master and your publishing revenue. It uses data to offer a really in-depth analysis of the overall value value of your catalog, but also individual songs. And Bands has an unclaimed royalty tool that will go and help you collect unclaimed publishing royalties. So if you don't know, producer royalty is a debt collector for producers. So we help producers track down any money that they're owed, whether that's advances, master royalties, or publishing royalties. So on the master royalty side, Bands has been so helpful for us. Master royalties are paid out directly by the label after your advance from the placement recoups. We've estimated that it's about 10 to 20 to maybe 25 million streams before an advance recoups. And before Bands came out, we kind of just had to guess whether we think an advance recoup. But now with the Bands app, our clients should just log onto the Bands app and see very close to how much the master has generated for them. So for instance, if they got $1,000 advance and they log onto the Bands app and it says the master has generated $5,000 for them, then we know that the advance is recouped and we have an estimate of about $4,000 you're owed. Now, this sounds like such a simple concept. It's shocking that this hasn't been done before, but it hasn't. And it's finally here. This tool is going to empower creatives like none other I can imagine. You can see how much your catalog has generated over the last day, week, month, or years. And another useful feature they have is if you weren't properly credited as a producer, which of course a lot of producers aren't, you can easily just add the song to your Bands app with either the ISRC code for the song or just the song link itself. And the user interface is so easy to navigate. I can't imagine a simpler interface. Like, it's all just right here. And it's just all so easy to navigate. I honestly can't believe that this exists now. And I can promise you that producer royalty is not being paid to promote this app. I just genuinely believe that this is empowering creatives like nothing else I've seen before. This transparency is what the music industry is missing. This app is going to change the game. And it's going to give you a lot more leverage to negotiate and understand what you're worth. And Bands is a free app. So if you're interested in downloading it, there should be nothing stopping you. So if you want to download it, I put a link in the description below for you to check that out. And of course, if you need any help collecting any advances, master royalties, or publishing royalties, feel free to reach out to us and we'd be happy to help. And also, if you want to cop this Pay Your Producer merch, I'm also putting a link to that below. All right, now back to the interview.
And then outside of that, as far as to touch on what you're doing, definitely from an outside perspective, I just want to tell you, like, what you're doing is dope and it's growing really fast and you're bringing a lot of value to the community, and you have been. I don't even know how I had found what you were doing, because we've been talking for like, what, almost maybe 2 years? Because I want to say I was following Adam and then like maybe you guys had a conversation or something, because I remember clicking like your profile and trying to figure out what you were doing. I was
I was his law clerk. I don't know if you know that. I was working for him. So he reposted me as like his new law clerk.
There you go.
He had a couple collab posts. So that's probably what it was.
That's probably exactly where it happened, because I remember like somehow you just popping up and I was like, oh, is he a lawyer too? And then like I said, you were already kind of tapping into like another podcast, and I was like just trying to figure out, like, it doesn't matter to me like if you're not a producer, but I'm trying to learn all sides of the game at all times. So I'm tapping into anyone that's doing anything. And that was what, 2 years ago, and now you're like about to be, from what I've seen in the last interviews, it seems like you're about to be finished with school, right? And then like doing what you're already planning to do. And this podcast, like, I guess all I can say is from the outside perspective, like, you're just a doer, bro. Like, you're just doing it. Like, you're doing this, you're dropping so many episodes, you're getting all these people on here, you're bringing a whole bunch of value. So I definitely think like what you're doing is really special. It stands out. And I truly, when I post it, like, I'm really trying to tell producers, like, watch this content, not just, oh, this is cool, like, this is the homie, like, we kind of know each other. Like, no, this shit is like, this is the podcast where you're like, he's bringing on these lawyers and asking like the questions that are just like always
like, I'm asking the questions I wish I could have, like, especially when it's like on the legal side, because like I'm asking all the questions that I wish I would have had access to when I first started. So that's where I'm coming from with that. So
they're very direct, so it's like questions where like producers like might be looking for, and it's just like, okay, he's about to ask the exact question. And the thing that I like, that I notice of what you're doing, and then we could move past it, but it's definitely, I just want to make sure that like I tell you this, bro, because what you're doing is special. But like, if I'm listening, right, and it might be because I've been in it for a while and I've seen agreements and been part of it and stuff, and you might ask a question, and if it's not necessarily the answer that you think is going to benefit the most, or it's kind of like, oh, that was a little bit vague, you'll dive into it again. I'm like, thank you, bro, because like in my head, I'm like, oh, like that's this, you know, like if we're talking about like publishing versus, you know, the master royalty or something, and the question is like, it's answered correctly, but it's only understandable if you've maybe had a placement and been through that process with a lawyer and then signed an agreement. So another person like listening that maybe hasn't had it yet is going to be like, what does that mean? And you're like, ugh, and then you reach back and get it explained. And it's just like, that is like super, super beneficial for producers coming up. So I think you're doing amazing. And that's, I feel like, why what you're doing is growing so fast. And you're just bringing on a whole bunch of producers, lawyers, managers, and stuff that people want to hear from.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, bro. And you definitely hit it on the head, because a lot of people in the content space, and yeah, I know this is a lot about me. We're in transition back to you, but a
Hey,
lot of
bro,
people in
it's
the
all
content
good
space,
info.
yeah, and a lot of guests, it's like, they're not thinking about like, how is the audience gonna perceive this? So when I was interviewing Birdman Zoe, we talked about, what is a fully executed agreement, and then we said some other terminology, and we were talking about it, fully executed agreement, and we used that word mad times. But then I was like, wait, the audience doesn't actually. Most people probably don't know what that means. So I was like, before we move forward, let me just explain what that is. So I try to do that for sure. But thank you so much, bro. I appreciate that. I think what we both do is we both take the educator route in some capacity, in a very direct capacity. We own it, and we both owned it from the beginning for the most part. I think just taking that lane, the education lane, and I think that's still untapped. So like, how did you kind of get to the point where it's like you're confident, or you maybe fought any imposter syndrome that you might have, to be like, all right, I'm good enough now, even before having placements, to educate people? Like, do you have any advice for kind of getting to that point?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm going to touch on a couple parts of this. So I don't think you necessarily need like accolades to teach. I think that everybody has knowledge that they can share that somebody might not know. And one thing that I definitely, I think in like a reel or something, I think it was a YouTube live, and then I chopped it into a reel. But I was just explaining that like, you and me can explain something, right? Someone can teach us something, and we're going to understand it differently. We're just two completely different people. We're going to understand it differently. We're going to process the information differently. And then if they tell us, now you two go teach these two people what you just learned, we're going to explain it differently. And and then we can both switch and then explain the same thing to those two people. And they might process the information or what we said or how we said it, just the way that we teach, they understand it, or they understand a different concept from it. So I don't think that you necessarily, like, if you have knowledge, and I always try to like make sure that the knowledge or the tutorial type stuff that I'm explaining, like I do my research, as like, especially theory. I will double check everything I'm talking about like a million times to make sure what I'm saying is correct, because these videos are, if it pops off and goes big, I don't want to be giving like theory that doesn't make sense or isn't proper, because I'll literally delete the video and then redo it if it was like I explained something and then I realized like, wait, that didn't even make sense. Like, that's completely wrong. So I think when it comes down to like tutorials and stuff like that, if you have knowledge, bro, and you think you can explain something and you enjoy it, I don't see why not, try it. And then, sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
I guess just becoming, feeling confident in what you have to say online. Do you have any tips, I guess, to get there, which I think you
just start, bro, because I thought the same thing, and you have to just start, because when I first started, I threw up what was I using? I was using like an iPad, because I didn't have a camera. So it was a crazy aspect ratio, just a big old iPad in the corner, and then the Apple headphones with the wire, because I didn't have, I had a mic, but I don't remember why my setup was like that. But I was young, and it's probably I just didn't have equipment, because those first tutorials were literally like, you could go watch them, they're crazy. And I'm like I was younger too, obviously, trying to like, be funny in the awkwardness, but I was like awkward. You can tell, like when it's quiet, I was like, and like making noises, and like, cause I wasn't used to the quietness. I'm like, oh, this is weird. People are going to think this is weird. But I was like, it doesn't matter, bro. Like, I'm going to post it. And then some of the beats I was posting at the time, like, you're doing a tutorial. So if you cook up something trash, like, it is what it is. But at the end, I'm like, I don't know, maybe someone will find gems in this. I'm going to just upload it, right? And the first tutorial I ever did, I remember I had sat there, and I told you this right before the call, that none of my stuff is scripted. In the beginning, I tried to. So I was like, okay, like my first tutorial is probably the beats. No, it's probably like how to sell beats online. It was something. I just remember setting up. I had a big box light in front of me. The lighting was terrible. I looked super greasy. I look mad because I'm just staring into a light, and I'm like trying to read. I'm pretty sure I had like the iPad or a note, something in front of me. I'm trying to read what I wrote out. Like, all right, today and I'm looking like this. It took me like 3 hours, and I'm sweating because those box lights in front of you, they're hot, bro. So like, I'm sitting there, I was like, this is trash. I can't do this. So I cut the script, and I set up a little bit differently, and I just started talking. And those videos, it was literally like I had a chair. I still have them up. It was like how to sell beats on Instagram, or how to sell, like I was doing how to sell beats in like 2016. And I would literally just have little keynotes, and I would just blab. It felt more comfortable, and then I would just post it, and it translated way better. So even at that time, like I was awkward about trying to do it. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew from the jump I can't script it. Some people can't do it the other way, whatever way works. But to this day, when I try to read something and figure it out, like I just can't do it. I just jumped into it, and then that was it. I just didn't stop. Like I didn't care that it was awkward. I still don't care now that it was awkward, because you have to go through that, and there's literally no way to get past it unless you do it. Like if you're nervous to talk in front of the camera, like you could practice as much as you want, bro, but you're just gonna have to put the content out there, and the people that rock with you are gonna understand it. And sure, you might get comments of whatever it is, but at the end of the day, what we're doing is funny. Like we're talking into a camera with no one in a room. Like it's gonna be awkward. There's no way around that until you can get used to it and you forget.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I'll go side every part of that. Nah, hell yeah. So what's interesting about you too is you've taken a lot of different ways to monetize your career. You had one video where you were talking about like 26 different ways you found ways to make money, or at least you know of. So what have been like some of the surprisingly or surprising ways of monetizing, or unorthodox ways of monetizing that you've used, that you've had some success in, that you would, want to tell the community about? You talked about like website creations and emails and making banners, yeah, and editing maybe.
What I was gonna say, bro, I was gonna say that some people might not know this. Yeah, that was one of them. When I started, I had built my first site ever when I was like 17, 18 on WordPress, and I learned that like from scratch, how to like build out a site, all the domain stuff you have to do, and really just WordPress isn't full on coding, but there's a lot more coding, and there's a lot more to it than like Shopify or like sites like this. So when I started out building my first site, I had done a few sites for other people too, and then I had done a few sites for producers, and this is before I was even making YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like I was still working jobs. I was young, just trying to sell beats and record people because I was engineering, and I would make websites, and I had made websites for a few producers in exchange for them to post me on their story. And then they posted me on their story, and I got that week, I remember I was like, oh, it's over, bro. Like I found my lane, right? And they had posted me, and I did like 5 producer sites that week and made like a rack. And at that time, I was like working a job on the weekends, because like I told you, I was real young. So I was only making like $300 or $600 a month, because I couldn't work many hours. I think I was on like, no, I was right after the work permit, but that job was super part-time. So I was probably getting like 25 to 30 hours a week, and just got out of high school. I had made $1,000 in a week off building sites, and I was like, oh, this is what I'm gonna do. Like I'm gonna be a site designer, bro. But from that, like I would do people's artwork, thumbnails, drum kits. I forgot I used to do people's drum kit art, because I used to have these boxes, like producer, like 3D boxes that I would have on my site. And once I would build sites, people wanted, oh, who created the box for them? Oh yeah, I know how to do those. Like, I made that one for that producer on the site. So then I would start creating like their product boxes. So I don't know, really a lot of stuff. I don't do a lot of that now. I still do it for myself, but there was a lot of random stuff that I would do like that, to like just, I was starting off, so I was just doing whatever.
Yeah, like trying to get to that point where you can make a living off of this creator.
Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't even know about tutorials like to do them at the time. Like I was just making beats, selling beats, trying to sell beats, working, just trying to figure out
with the community.
Like what I'm gonna do.
Has your monetization strategy pivoted or changed at all or evolved in the last couple years or since you started? Like what was your idea in the beginning, and like how do you approach it now?
Very beginning, I had a bunch of things that I knew how to do with video editing, design, as far as like graphics, websites and stuff. So I was just kind of doing everything. But obviously once I jumped into like tutorials and stuff like that, and then the channel started growing, to be honest with you, if I could go back, bro, I always say like, if I could go back with just kind of what I'm doing now, or no, like it would have been like completely different. But at the time, like I'm doing a lot of tutorials and videos, and like I didn't even like have products. I wasn't using products in my video, so it's just a tutorial. Like I wouldn't think to post the beat for people to follow. Like it was literally just a tutorial, right? So like over the years, obviously, you know, start making products, start implementing them, and then tapping into different spaces like that. Like I just kind of laughed like, damn, I was literally just doing a tutorial and then I would try to sell beats. And those two things are so different, like such different lanes. And I did it for so long that finally, you know, you kind of have like that aha moment where it's like, why am I posting beats and trying to sell beats still? I'm literally building like a whole YouTube channel that has nothing to do with recording artists.
Yeah. It's like the tutorials are for producers and selling beats are for artists,
Yeah.
obviously. I'm going through that right now too, where it's like we have a beat store, but it's like the producer royalty audience is basically useless because they're not buying the beats. So it's like we're selling beats and we don't even tell the producer royalty audience because it's like there's no point. It's a different thing. So it's like being conscious of that. What kind of money move or financial decision do you wish you would have made earlier?
I wish I would have just like knew or had like, yeah, I wish I was creating products for producers at the time, but I don't fault myself for it because to be honest with you, bro, like if you go back 8 years from now, like things were so different. Like I'll give you one example, like loops. You probably know a loop right now as, cause I don't know 8 years ago if you were even like tapped in with like the producer community, right? But if you think of a loop right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but you might kind of know it's going to be like an arrangement. And then there's like the track outs at the end, like the piano separated, the this, the that, right? And they're like these big loops that it's like the full creation. And then you're going to have the piano and all that, but it's all in one file. And there's like a whole bunch of these things in a pack. Back then, bro, a loop, like loop kits were 8-bar loops and it's everything in one. So you can't get the piano, the vocals, the strings separately, right? You would buy a loop kit of 40 loops and you're working with an 8-bar loop. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm old, bro. Like I knew producing before. Like obviously when I jumped into it, the game was so much different than before. But just by like doing this for already like 8 years, there's, you know, even more, everything evolves and changes. So you think back to that and you would be like, dang, like I wish I could get the string or the vocal out of this loop. So you might hit the producer like, yo, can I get the stems? And people are like, I'm not sending you the stems. Like you're going to have all my stems and take my stuff. Like it was so different. There wasn't like multi-kits. There wasn't like big bundles of vocals, and then you get an analog lab bank and mixer presets and guitar one shots and textures and all these things that are now is more just either drum kits, a loop kit where it's just like 8 to 16 bar loops, no stems included, and maybe like MIDI kits. But as far as information on how to sell these things or like even sending out loops for placements, like that's very big now. But if you go back 8 years ago, like that wasn't necessarily a thing. It was more like full on connections or you're maybe paying for collabs, but you were like, there just wasn't that much info out. So at the time, like you wouldn't necessarily be thinking of all those things. So I kind of like the way it made me focus on the channel a lot and I wasn't too focused on that. And I feel like everything happens for a reason. So I was definitely learning my craft a lot and just kind of building like the platform the YouTube like community, building on the platform is what I meant, on YouTube. And I don't know, I was just enjoying the process. So it's so different. You know, we didn't have reels, there's no TikTok, like things are just, they evolve. You got to evolve with them. So trying to think back of like, oh, I know all this, like I wasn't, or searching for the knowledge. Maybe it was my ignorance, but I just didn't really know.
Yeah. And nobody's going to have it all figured out. Like the people who don't make it are often the ones that expect to have it all figured out before they start. So like one thing about you and me, it's like we really just started before we had it figured out. So I think a lot of producers should just start whatever their idea is. And yeah, you're amazing at building a community and building like a brand. Like you talk a lot about brand building in your content, or a good amount. So is there anything that you feel like any branding mistakes or things that producers often don't do when it comes to building a brand that you've noticed that they should take a little bit more seriously?
Yeah, I can't say like I can apply this to, I don't think about it as far as like, I don't look at other creators and like try to see, you know, oh, you could do this or you could do that. Maybe if it's like me and the homies are chopping it up and we're like thinking about different things. What I could say from just a general perspective though is you should always provide value to your community and what you're building and your audience. And when these people support you and they drop comments on your videos or they're showing love, or maybe they ask you like a simple question that you have, like you see a question that like you know the answer to or something, I don't take it for granted and I don't do it out of any other reason than like I really appreciate the people that support me, so I'm gonna show love. Because literally without without them, bro, like this is not possible. And even if they're just viewing it, like if someone drops a comment on my video and they say like, yo, like thank you for this, or you know, like dope video, it doesn't matter. Like I'm replying to all of them because I just genuinely appreciate it. And someone might think like, no, it's just cap, like you're just saying that. But if you go back, I have 500 videos on my channel and almost every single comment is replied to, because I go on YouTube daily. I've done this for 8 years. I don't remember when they applied it, but a few years ago they put like a little section where you can filter by comments you haven't replied to. Sit on there daily and just reply, thank people, because truly without the people that are supporting you and the people that are watching your stuff, like you're not going to be able to do it. And I don't think over the time like, oh, well, now I've done it for 8 years, so now I deserve this. I don't need to reply to comments anymore. Like I've given so many tutorials, like I've done my part. Like I don't, I could stop replying to me, bro. It's like every single day people are supporting what I'm doing. And yeah, you're putting out content that might be helping somebody, but they're watching it and replying to it and showing love. Like I'm replying back and showing love too, and just genuinely like, just thank you so much for watching. Like those, it's repetitive, right? Because it's always thank you, I appreciate you watching, supporting the channel, but that's literally, I'm typing that every single time. Or it's like the part of thank you, add in, blah, blah, blah. But I'm replying to all of them, because at the end of the day, like your community and the people that support you are the only reason you're really able to do it. If, at least for me in the space that I'm doing it, because if I take all that away, like I'm not able to do this, and I'm able to do this full time and not work and pay bills and do all these things off of it. Like, yeah, I drop videos and it's helping, but that's not the reason I'm able to do this and create income from it. That the reason of that is the people that are supporting me. And I really just don't take it for like lightly. I really do every day appreciate that, bro. And just, I think about it all day long, bro. I'll just be like, damn, this is so dope. Like, yeah, just thank you.